Well, thank you all very much for having me here today. I truly, truly appreciate it. My name is Jake Laughlin. A little bit about me. In college, I started talent buying, so booking bands primarily and entertainment for different music venues. And then through that process, started meeting more and more musicians and developing relationships with them, and ended up starting an online radio program called DentonRadio.com, dedicated to trying to promote local entertainment and mostly music in Denton, Texas. If you've never been to Denton, it's an amazing place for live music. You've got to check it out sometime. If you're a live music person, it's the place to go. So put that on your calendar, Denton, Texas. You got to go check it out. Now, Denton Radio over time was acquired by the Denton Convention and Visitors Bureau, also known as Discover Denton. It's the marketing and promotions arm for tourism for the city. And so I was hired with the acquisition of Denton Radio to try and promote as much music and entertainment as possible. At the same time, I continued buying talent for music venues, so I was kind of walking in two worlds where I was promoting music and entertainment, and I was booking music and entertainment. And what I started to realize with a lot of different acts was that they had the incredible talent, they were bringing a ton to the table, but they didn't always understand how to take advantage of the opportunities once created for them. They didn't always understand the business side of things, and so I started to break some of my attention away to a third passion, which is teaching marketing to artists and musicians and showing them how to do the business part of their art. And that developed into a book called Get the Gig, A Musician's Guide to Booking More Live Shows. And that book is all about developing relationships with great venues, the venues you want to work with. And as I started speaking more on that and developing more of that content and working with more groups and working with more artists, I started hearing from more and more people, everything from poets to people hosting a PTA meeting, that they wanted more information on how to make their events bigger as well. How do I get more people to come to my event? And that is what we're going to talk about today. I've laid out a framework that I do for all of my events, all of my promotions, and it's a formula and a template that we do for everything on all of our music marketing. And if you follow this template, I guarantee it's going to increase the amount of people that you have coming to your event. Now, we're going to talk about some tactics and some strategy and some of those kinds of things, but we're also going to get a little bit nerdy too and talk about some brain things and some triggers in decision making, because what you're trying to do is get people of a routine to break out of that routine and do something new. And so we're going to talk a little bit about decision making and how all of that works and break down the formula a little bit. Okay, so the formula is this. All right, I call this my successful event formula. It goes MV plus 2 months of you advertising times 4% equals large crowds. Now, that sounds very weird and super mathy and all those kinds of things, and I don't mean for it to at all. This is only an illustration. It's a template that we can measure our marketing behaviors against. All right, and so this will just give you a measuring stick for what you're doing, and we're going to break this down piece by piece by piece. So MV, we'll start there. V stands for venue. Okay, everything revolves around the venue. The venue that you book is the number one decision maker when people decide if they're going to the event or not going to the event. And when I look at a venue, I'm looking for what I call a magic venue, an MV. A magic venue. Now, a magic venue is the venue that everybody is flocking to. It's the venue everybody knows. It's the venue that everybody is clamoring to get to. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody in town is at least familiar with this venue. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the coolest venue, because that might not be the venue that everybody's going to. It may not be the venue that checks all the boxes. It's just a venue that for some reason is that venue that everybody seems to want to go to. That's what I call a magic venue. You can't even pinpoint what it is that makes that venue special. It just works. So as an example, years ago I used to book talent for these two venues that were almost exactly the same in every way, except one was much better than the other. Their logos were exactly the same. Their color scheme was exactly the same. They were both green. They did green on everything. Green walls, green logo, green everywhere. So it looked very much the same. They both did craft beer, although one had much more selection than the other. The one that had more selection also had food, and the other one didn't. And the one that had more selection and the food was in a much better location. This one over here was next to a concrete factory way off the beaten path. The other one was right in downtown. Now, if I booked the same band at both of those venues by checking all the boxes, this one should have been the one everybody went to, but it wasn't. For some reason, everybody always flocked to this venue and not this one. I could even put worse talent in this one and better talent over here, and people would still be more likely to go to this venue. This is a magic venue. You can't pinpoint what it is about it that people even care about more, because this one had all the boxes checked. But for some reason, this is the one that everybody wanted to go to. And so those are the venues you need to look for. There's a trigger in the brain, and it says, okay, what venue do I know? What venue am I familiar with? See, the mind, the brain, it's developing patterns and routines. We can go really long form with this to keep you alive, right? Whatever you did yesterday is more likely to keep you alive today. The brain checks a box. Okay, we did this yesterday. That's safe. Check. We didn't do this new thing yesterday, so that's not safe. Check. All right, and so we form patterns in our minds that are very hard for us to break out of. It's why all of us complain that life is monotonous. However, we still do the same things every day. So we develop these patterns in the mind where we do the same thing over and over and over again. There's a neurologist friend of mine, he broke down an example of this. He says the mind is like a herd of cows. Stick with me. If you have a herd of cows, they all kind of follow the same path behind each other. You really only have to grab a couple of the lead cows and get them to do what you want to do, and then the rest just sort of kind of follow along. It's how you were able to have these big cattle drives across the entire U.S. where you would cross states and states and states and have no fences, nothing to keep the cows in line, none of those kinds of things, because all you had to do was get a couple of cows to walk this way, and the rest of the cows will just walk right along. And so the mind works the same way. You develop patterns and you develop routines, things that you will do and things that you won't do. And the mind is designed to keep you on the same track that you're familiar with. It's designed to keep you in the routine. So there's venues that are marked in the mind as safe, as good places, as places we always go, as places we're familiar with, as places we know. And those venues are 1,000,000 times more likely to get people to go to them than venues that may have a bunch of cool stuff on them, but they're not familiar with them, or they don't go to them very often. So the main thing that may need to change in you getting more people to come to your events is a venue change. 80 to 90% of the deciding factor on this entire deal is going to be the venue that you choose to host your event in. So MV, that's the main thing. We've got to get that one first. You got to find those magic venues to host your event in. All right, next, 2 months of you advertising, okay? Now, what I mean by you advertising, we'll get to in a second, but the 2-month thing is really important. 2 months, that's the cutoff. You need to be promoting a bare minimum of 2 months in advance. If you're less than 2 months, you've missed it. I mean, you could still possibly do it, but man, the opportunity is really 2 months. You need to do 2 months at the very least, even more when possible. But 2 months is the sweet spot. So get everything together way in advance so that you know you've got all the details ready for at least 2 months out. Now, the reason that you're doing this thing 2 months out is not so you can reach the most people. What you're trying to do is reach trendsetters. What I call trendsetters. You might also call them influencers, or the friend that calls all the other friends to get them together. When deciding whether or not to go out, very few people break out of the routine. They're used to the routine. They like the routine. They may not think they like the routine, but it's built into them. It's baked in. They have their routine. But there are these special people in all of our lives, within our communities, that love to break the routine. The routine for them is to break the routine. They're always looking for something new to do. It's the pursuit of finding something new. Finding something new in their mind is safe. Staying the same would be dangerous. So those people are the ones that make the phone calls. They're the ones that say to all their friends, hey, are we going to go do this thing on Thursday? Are we going to do this together? Hey, get everybody together. We're going to go see this movie. We're going to get everybody in the car. And they're the ones that make the plans. We all have those friends. We all know those friends. They're the ones that gather everybody together. Because most people, even if they see an ad, will not make their decision to go and be a part of something based off of the ad. They will only go when someone else calls them or messages them or grabs them and makes them go do it. We have to try and grab the trendsetters within the community because they're the ones that are grabbing the group. In every large crowd is a small number of a few trendsetters that got everybody to go do it. That's the deal. We have to grab a hold of those trendsetters. If you want more information on this, there's a great book by Seth Godin called Spreading the Idea Virus. He talks about these people as sneezers. If you're going to spread a virus, you got to have people that are sneezing on others to spread it around. Tipping Point and Crossing the Chasm are also great books to grab a hold of on this concept if you want to go even deeper in it. But the point at the end of it all is that if you want people to come, the ads will never get the public to come. The ads will grab a hold of the trendsetters. And you need at least a few of those to get large groups to come and do it. They're the ones that are making the calls. They're the ones that actually make the sale for you. So a lot of people, when they hear that, come to me and go, well, then why am I even advertising at all? Because I'm just trying to get those trendsetters. If I know who the trendsetters are in the community, if I know who the people are that make those phone calls and that are the ones that get everybody together, then why even run the ads? Well, the counter argument I have to that is that your ads serve two purposes. One, of course, you're trying to grab as many trendsetters as possible. There are trendsetters you don't know of, trendsetters you haven't met yet, trendsetters within your community that are looking for new things and interesting things to go do. So we run ads to try and get a hold of as many of those. That's reason number one. Even though 100,000 people may see it, but you're going to have 17 trendsetters in that group. But the other reason why you do it is you got to lay the groundwork and the foundation for the trendsetters to make that call. See, the thing is we all have trendsetters in our lives. We all have those people that call us that want us to go do things. The problem is they're crazy. We all have that friend that calls us and tries to get everybody together and say, hey, on Thursday, we're all going to this abandoned warehouse, and it's going to be this party, and it'll be this big thing, and we're going, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. And even the trendsetters in our lives may not be able to get us to go every time because they're nuts. They're not routine people. They break out of routines. They put us in places and situations that are not familiar, that are not part of our routine, that may not seem safe, right? So what you have to do is set an expectation in the minds of the routine people so that when the trendsetter calls, they've already checked the box. This is something I want to do, right? So in every decision, there's two things that have to happen. There's a subconscious expectation, and then there's a conscious stimulant. Subconscious expectation, conscious stimulant, okay? If I set you up on a blind date and I say, hey, this person is amazing looking. They're gorgeous. They are going to blow your mind with how good they look. And you guys get together and you meet them and they don't look all that good. Subconscious expectation that they're going to be good looking. You meet them. Conscious stimulant did not meet or exceed the subconscious expectation. Same scenario if I tell you, hey, I'm going to set you up with somebody. They're hilarious. They tell these amazing jokes. They're going to have you rolling the whole night. You're going to be in stitches for this whole thing. And I tell you that, and then you go meet them, and they're beautiful, but they're kind of a dud. It was sort of boring the whole time. You didn't have much to talk about. It was just kind of meh. Subconscious expectation was that they were going to be funny. Conscious stimulant, they weren't. Now, they checked the first box. They were beautiful. They were great for what the other scenario was, but the other scenario was not that they were going to be funny. It was that they were going to be good looking. So even though this next person was good looking, the expectation was not that they were going to be good looking. It was that they were going to be funny. So even though they're good looking, it doesn't matter. Your expectation was that they were going to be funny. So what you have to do is set the expectation in as many people as possible. You have to have them see an ad or something that make them go, oh, I would go to that. Yeah, that seems kind of cool. They're not going to go based off of that. They're routine people. They don't break out of the routine. Even if they don't think they're routine people. We're all routine people at something. Even trendsetters have their routines sometimes. Nobody breaks out of their routine unless something really pushes them out of it. That's how you get cows to go do other things. You got to grab a few lead cows and then you push it, and then the rest follows through, right? So the ad doesn't make the decision. The ad sets the expectation. Yeah, I'd go to that. That's kind of cool, even though they know they're not going to go. But then when you set the expectation that this is a cool event, this is something I would go do, this is going to be kind of interesting, then when the trendsetter calls and goes, hey, we're all going to meet at 5 o'clock and go do this thing, bam, now you've hit the sell. You had to set the expectation, that's what the ad is for, and then you needed the trendsetter to make the call. Now, when I say advertising, nobody worry, I'm talking about posting on social media, putting up a poster. I don't mean you have to buy a big ad campaign or anything like that. You could, but for those of you that are sitting here and going, man, I don't have a bunch of money I can put into this thing, I just mean putting the word out there at all. Posting on social media, I consider advertising. Okay, so don't be worried that you don't have a budget to do these kinds of things that we're talking about. Anyways, so why 2 months? 2 months gives the trendsetter time to tell all of those people that they need to break out of their routine. It gives them time to set up the conversation. If they find out a week before, it's not enough time for them to get it into their calendar and on their schedule and for them to call everybody and get everyone together and message the whole group and figure out the logistics and then we're going to go to dinner and do this whole thing. You need at least 2 months. They need 2 months to try and convince everybody. Okay? That is why when people do advertising, they push really hard right before the event, and that's not enough time. You got to have time on your side. This is what I call you advertising. You do a big push at the beginning, putting everything into it. Then you can even taper off if you need to, and then right before the event, you do a big push again. Not to get people to go, but to remind the ones that have already been convinced to go that it's happening, because sometimes we forget, and we have to be reminded. So let's say you have a budget of $20, just $20. You need to spend 18 of it 2 months in advance. 1, 2, maybe 3 days at the beginning of that 2 months. Put 18 at least right here. And put everything into it. Then you don't have to put anything into it until the very end when you put a little bit more in again. See, when most people do advertising, they either advertise like this or they advertise like this. They do nothing. They scale it up, scale it up, scale it up, scale it up, scale it up. At the very end, they'll do some more. And that doesn't work because your trendsetters don't have time to talk. Other people do like this, and they go, okay, I'm just going to keep it consistent. I'm going to spend $1 a day, $2 a day, whatever it's going to be. I'm just going to spread out the budget so that we're consistently putting that message out there. The problem is the trendsetters that find out about it here, they've got enough time. The ones that find out about it here might have enough time. The ones that find out about it here are running out of time, and the ones that found out about it here have no time. So people go, oh, I'm going to spread out my budget so I make sure that I hit as many trendsetters as possible. The problem is those trendsetters don't have time. Now, when you do a big ad campaign and you put it all in, it compounds, right? Because more people talk about it. If you and you and you and you and you find out about the same event at the same time on the same day, then you start to talk about it a little bit. But if you find out on day 1 and you find out on day 5 and you find out on day 7 and you find out on day 10, you missed each other. You didn't get to talk about it. Right? So you want to put everything in one pot so that, boom, you get this big explosion of dialogue and synergy, and people are talking about it, and it's buzzing all at once, and then it gives those trendsetters time to convince people that it's happening. Right? So you may get, let's say you get 15 trendsetters 2 months in advance, and then you remind them at the end, okay, you're capped at 15 trendsetters, and people get worried about that. And I'm going to spread out my budget so I can get 20 trendsetters. Well, you're going to get 5 here, you're going to get 5 here, you're going to get 5 here, and you're going to get 5 here. Well, 10 can do it. The other 10 can't. So the net is that you lose in the end. You have less people. So I say put everything you got in it for those first 2-3 days, and grab as many trendsetters as you can, and boom, this big push. And then again, at the end, you set a reminder. See, because we get busy, we get into our routines. Even the trendsetters get into routines. And even though it's on your calendar and you plan to do it on Thursday, and you're going to you get into the Thursday routine. And if something doesn't go, hey, remember this thing that you got to go do, you may forget. So $20 budget, 18 up here, let it go, $2 here as that reminder piece, right? That's just the illustration that I'm trying to use. So, well, hopefully you got more than $20. You may not have $20. That's okay. Big social media push here, then big social media push here. right? So the you advertising, that's our goal. We're trying to get as many trendsetters as we can, give them as much time as we can to tell everybody what's going on, and then we remind everybody at the end. All right? Now, I want to talk about the times 4%. Okay? The times 4%, I call this the 4% rule. 4% of all of the people that you tell about an event will actually come. And I know that gets people really depressed. We're going to get into more positive things here in a second. But 4%, it doesn't seem like that big of a number, but that's kind of the metric. If you tell a big group of people, you're only going to have so many that are actually able to do it. So we need to start seeing bigger numbers. What happens most of the time is we say, okay, we need 25 people to come, so I'm going to tell 25. And then 2 come, and you go, oh, man, we failed. Well, according to the 4% rule, you actually did quite well. Sometimes you're going to get more than 4%, and you had a very successful event. As long as you got 4% or more, I think you did your job. If you did less than 4%, something's wrong with the formula. We need to tweak it and see what we can fix, right? So we need to measure out all of our metrics and just do the math very simply against 4%. If you need 40 people to come, you need to tell 1,000. If you need 40 people to come, you can't tell 40, you've got to tell 1,000. Now here's where it gets more positive. Because of the internet, because of social media and all these kinds of things, telling 1,000 people is not difficult to do. It's actually quite easy. And you can just back the math up, okay? So let's say we need 100 people to come. 4% of 100 is going to be 4% against that. So you're going to divide that by 0.04 is 2,500 people, okay? Now on Facebook, you've got an $8 CPM. Okay, CPM is cost per thousand. I don't know why they use an M. It's a Latin thing. It's just the industry term. Anyway, CPM, cost per thousand. Okay, if you need to reach 2,500 people, all right, 2,500 divided by 1,000, that's 2.5 times 8. That's $20. Okay, so if you need to reach 2,500 people, then you need to spend $20 on Facebook, and then you're far more likely to get 100 people. So $20 equals 100 people. Now, I know everybody's talking about, okay, we got Russians and we got data and we got this and we got that and all this stuff with Facebook and social media. I understand all of that, and we can debate it, and I'm not going to argue it or any of those kinds of things. All I'm saying is it works. And as long as it works, I'm going to keep telling people to do it. And the moment that it stops working, I'll do something else. But, man, I think the bare minimum that everybody needs to be doing is figure out your goal number of people and then back it out against that 4% and then run an ad on Facebook targeting the demo that you're going after to that number. Right? Take whatever number you need and just divide it by 0.04 and then figure out the CPM, figure out your $8 to reach 1,000, boom, 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 boom. That's the formula. Again, back it up. If you need 100 people times 0.04, 2,500 people, 2,500 divided by 1,000, 2.5, 2.5 times 8, $20. And just do that math over and over and over again. And that's the base. That's the foundation. You should do that on every single event that you do. Just target that demo on Facebook or whatever social media platform you're doing. I think Facebook is the best buy right now. Again, I'll change that advice whenever I feel like it's not relevant. But right now, man, it really, really works. Okay? So, what I typically will do, let's get a little bit tactical. Okay, we've laid out the foundation. Let's go with the tactics. Now, it's 2 months before the event. We've got all our details in order. We know what's going to happen with this event. Okay, so I need a big group of people to come. I'm going to figure out my number. I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to spend this much on Facebook. I'm going to run it to 2 to 3 days. Boom. On this time, that's the start. I'm also going to pull together a team of volunteers or people that are involved in the event, and we're going to cover the city in posters, and then we're going to compare emails. We're going to do a big email blast, set up a MailChimp or something. Doesn't cost anything, maybe a few dollars. And then we're going to get together, and we're going to share phone numbers. We're just going to create a big phone number. Who do you know in your list of phone numbers of all the numbers that you know that you think will actually come to this thing? And let's just create a big pot. And I'll call the people on your list, and you can call the people on mine, and we can set up a Google Voice number so nobody has to know what our phone number is, and that doesn't cost you anything. And you just call. Just call. And do it over the course of that 2 to 3 days. We're just going to get some pizza and some beer. We're all going to hang out, and we're just going to start calling people. We covered the city in posters. We did a big email blast. We're running our Facebook campaign for that couple of days, and then we're just calling. And what you're doing is you're creating this big explosion, this big buzz that's happening all at once 2 months before your event. And what you're going to do in that process is you're going to try and grab as many people's attention as possible. Again, with the phone calls, a lot of people they're just gonna go to voicemail because they don't recognize the number. But then people will hear that and go, "Oh man, this is important. They called me specifically. This isn't recording. This is like real stuff." I've had people that hate my guts come to an event and go, "Laughlin, I don't really like you, but somebody called me and I thought it was important, so I'm here." So that's what I do on everything that I think is going to be important. You do those 4 things: put up the posters, do the Facebook ads, run an email campaign, and then do a call campaign. Do that 2 months before an event. Again, it's got to be 2 months. Do your marketing, and man, you've really got something. Okay, so let's review. So magic venue, that's the number one thing. We've got to get that right. We have to get a magic venue. The venue doesn't have to be the coolest venue. It's got to be the venue everybody knows. The venue everybody wants to go to, because that's going to check that box in the brain. Is this something I want to go to? All right, so you got your magic venue. You got your 2 months of you advertising, 2 months in advance doing the you advertising. Then you're going to do your big blast at the end. Again, you can run another small Facebook campaign, do another email blast. If you want to, you can make some more calls or whatever. Make sure your posters are up. Make sure you got posters at the event, whatever. Again, 2 months, boom, 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 times your 4%. And then you're going to see a big increase in what you're doing. You follow that formula, match this template against the event marketing that you're currently doing, I guarantee you're going to see an increase in what you're doing. I really, really, really appreciate you guys having me here today. I really hope this helps you with your event, that you can see way more people coming and doing what you're doing, because I think it's just so cool when people put their passion into their events and try to create something cool for their community. So thank you again for being here today. Thank you for having me, and I truly, truly hope this helps you. Thank you so, so much.